Welcome to the podcast that will teach you how to successfully invest in and build steady streams of passive income from the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Veteran real estate investors Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart from Mobile Home Park Academy will personally share with you the valuable lessons they've learned along their journey as mobile home park investors, so that you too can learn how to build massive cash flow and huge profits from this extremely lucrative niche. So without further ado, let's welcome your hosts for today's show, Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart.
Welcome, guys and gals, to the Mobile Home Park Academy's weekly podcast. We'll provide all the information that you need to know to successfully locate, negotiate, close on, and make huge profits from the lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. I'm your host, Kevin Bupp, along with my co-host and business partner, Charles Dehart. Charles, man, it's been a long time since we've done one of these things, right?
It has. Yeah,
right.
It's been a long time. Been too long. So
you just been on vacation for a long time. Is that what you're doing?
I guess that's what we'll say. We'll say I've been on vacation for a while.
Charles has been out there sitting on a beach drinking Coronas while I'm slaving away behind the podcast mic. No, people are probably wondering what the hell happened to Charles, but he's here, he's present, and we're going to do this thing again, man. It's been probably like a few months since you and I have done a show together, so I'm kind of excited. And today's going to be different from like the norm. So like this all, and I talked to Charles about this the other day. This show was really prompted from a breakfast meeting that I had with a good friend. It's actually a mutual friend of Charles and my own, and he happens to be a fellow park investor as well. He was visiting the Tampa Bay area with his family a week or so ago, and during this breakfast meeting, we were just getting together to kind of chat a little bit. He said something that it really resonated with me, and he said that although he's known both Charles and I now for, I guess, Charles, maybe like a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. So he's known us for quite some time. He doesn't really know our full story of where we got our start as real estate investors and really how we ended up in the mobile home park niche, right? And so Charles and I thought that it'd be fun and also only fair to you guys if we did a show where we can kind of interview one another about our background so that you guys can get a better feel for just, who we are as normal people and also how we ended up in this sometimes crazy niche of mobile home parks. It's not crazy. I mean, I say it's lucrative, but sometimes it could be crazy, good fun stories that go along with it. But you guys get to see like the path that brought us to where we are today. But before we dive into that, just want to go through a real quick list of laundry items here. First and foremost, I think you guys have probably heard over the last couple episodes, kind of a huge announcement. I think it's a big announcement, right, Charles? I mean, Charles and I have decided that we're writing a book. In fact, it's been something that has been kind of in the works now for a couple of years, more so than not. I mean, it kind of started, I guess, Charles, when we had like the idea for putting together the academy. It just got kind of put on the side burner a little bit because obviously the academy took priority over the book itself. But we're planning on coming out in a few months with a book about mobile home park investing, basically A to Z, soup to nuts mobile home park investing, and I promise you that it will be the most comprehensive book that you'll ever have read. There's a few out there, but I promise you it will be the most comprehensive book on mobile home park investing that you've ever read. And as a gift to you guys, our loyal listeners, I mean, you're the ones that make this possible. You're the ones that pretty much give us this fun little hobby that we have of podcasting and talking about this business. We are going to give it to you absolutely free, a copy of it. As soon as we're done with it, we're going to give you a copy absolutely free. And this will be before we actually put it up for sale on Amazon. And all you have to do to get on the VIP wait list is text the word Kevin. It's just my name, Kevin. Text the word Kevin to 41411. Again, just text Kevin 41411, and you'll be one of the first to receive an absolutely free copy of the book once it's completed. And next up, if any of you that are out there that are listening in podcast land, if you're an accredited investor who's been looking for a passive investment opportunity, then just want to mention about the opportunity that we have. That Charles and I, our company is called Sunrise Capital Investors, and we've got some opportunities for those that are accredited and have an interest in partnering on deals, okay? So if you're seeking above average returns, then we'd like to speak with you, okay? Charles and I, we keep our finger on the pulse of basically everything mobile home parks, but we also keep our finger on the pulse of the other types of investment opportunities that are out there, like the multifamily syndications, the other commercial real estate niches like shopping centers and offices. And neither one of us have really seen anything that can hold a candle to the opportunity that we have at Sunrise Capital Investors. So you can get more information about this and also download our company investment prospectus by going to sunrisecapitalinvestors.com, or you can call us at 888-260-9455. Again, visit our website, sunrisecapitalinvestors.com, or give us a call, 888-260-9455. And just one other quick thing I want to mention here about this investment opportunity. I can tell you that a large majority of our current investors actually are taking advantage of investing with us through their self-directed IRA. So if you guys have a self-directed, if you have a retirement account that isn't performing up to your standards, then again, we need to talk. We actually partner with they're a national company, but they have a local branch here in Tampa, but they're a national company. It's called Advanta IRA, and it's actually the same company that I use for all my own self-directed investments. And they can answer any questions for you if you have them. Their website is advantaira.com. We actually have our own landing page for them, which I'll put in the show notes. It's info.advantaira.com/Sunrise Capital. And again, it might be hard to kind of remember these websites, but we'll put them in the show notes so you can just click on them directly and go learn more about this opportunity. And next up, this is more of like a casting call than anything else. As you guys have noticed, Charles and I have interviewed a ton of mobile home park operators over the past couple of months. And so if you're one of those people and you haven't been on our show yet, you listen in and you're an active investor in this space and you have mobile home parks currently today, then we'd love to speak with you. We'd love to have you on the show. I mean, I feel like that we all learn, at least I do, I'll speak for myself, I guess here. I learn more from those that are actually out there doing it, that are in the trenches, that are actually investing, versus just speaking in theory about this niche, okay? I mean, every day is a different day, but even in our business, like we're always running into unique challenges. And so if you're a current park operator, we'd love to speak with you about your story, how you got into this business and the challenges that you faced and how you overcame them. And so we'd love to have you as a guest on the show. So if you have an interest in that, you can reach out to us directly. Just shoot us an email, mobilehomeparkacademy@gmail.com, and we'll schedule time to get on the phone together and chat about that, okay? And last up, if you happen to be in the Tampa Bay area, which is where Charles and I are located, reach out to us. We'd love to meet with you while you're in town. All you have to do is just shoot us an email, mobilehomeparkacademy@gmail.com. Let us know when you're coming into town. We'll see if we can coordinate our schedules to hook up while you're here. So, Charles, I think that's it, man. I'm going to dig into your history, man. You're going to dig into mine. This is going to be kind of fun, right?
Be a little bit different. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Okay, so who goes first?
I think you do. Okay. I think you need to give us a little bit of background about where you grew up.
I was going to say we can do rocks, paper, scissors, but we're not in the same room right now. All right, well, good deal. Well, where should I start? I guess what we can do is just start kind of life prior to real estate. I'll give you guys a little background of me prior to getting into real estate. Now, I have been doing this pretty much full time since I was, 19. I got into this business, but 20 is when I bought my first property, and this is what I've been doing ever since. And I've had other businesses along the way, but so I guess I'll start there, just kind of life prior to real estate. There's not too much there because I was a terrible high school student. I mean, I did really bad in school, Charles, and I got in a lot of trouble. People don't really believe that about me. They think that I just kind of make that up, but I got in a ton of trouble. I hung around the wrong people. Like my parents told me not to hang around. Don't hang around those kids. They're going to be a bad influence. But I made my own choices, but a lot of them were really bad choices and just got in a lot of trouble, with the law and all kinds of stuff. My parents getting called in the middle of the night to come pick me up and all that fun stuff that I'm way past that point in my life now. But it was definitely a learning experience. And so I graduated high school barely. I had terrible grades. I mean, I was literally a C and D student, and a lot of my friends, I had some really smart friends. They went away to school, went away to different universities, and I knew that number one, if I could even get into any university, I knew if I went away that I would just have wasted my parents' money. They would have basically, I'd have probably gotten kicked out in the first semester for partying too much, and it would have been a big waste. And I didn't come from a wealthy family. It was a very blue-collar family. My mom worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield growing up and just did data entry. So I don't know what she got paid, probably barely above minimum wage. And my father was an IT instructor for which was AMP, which is now Tyco, and I think they're still Tyco. I mean, it's a big electrical connector company, and just he had a higher than blue collar type of wage, but still we were very much a blue collar family. And, anyway, long story short, I graduated high school, went to community college because that's all I thought I could really do at that point because I didn't want to, waste my parents' money, and started bartending. Got a bartending job when I was 18 and had a lot of fun with that. Met met a lot of girls, had a lot of, had a good time with it. And which was the cool thing about where I grew up in Pennsylvania is in the state of Pennsylvania, you only have to be 18 to serve alcohol, 21 to drink it. But so I had a lot of fun there and just really floated through like the next year and a half of my life, not having any direction. And I got really, really lucky is what I can say, because I was not looking for anything at that point in my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I really didn't have, I don't know, at that point, I didn't really think I had any kind of desire like for anything in particular. And so I wasn't a big reader. I didn't read business books or self-motivation books or anything like that. But I was dating a girl at that point in time. I was 19. And her mother had been recently divorced, and she started dating this guy. I got, basically, long story short, his name was David, and David and I, he was about 20 years older than I was, but David and I we ended up on a boat one day. My brother and I owned a boat together, and somehow David and I ended up on the boat together one day, just kind of hanging out. It was like a Monday afternoon, and I got to know who he was. I was like, what are you doing out here? Like, what do you do out on the boat? It's Monday. Shouldn't you be at work? And just kind of joking with him, and found out that he was a real estate investor. That's what he did. He owned real estate. He owned rental properties, single families, and small multifamily properties, and just kind of befriended him. And I didn't know anything about that business, Charles. Like I didn't know. I didn't know what it really meant to be a real estate investor. Like, so in my mind, this older guy was kind of wealthy and he owned property. Like, that's what that meant to me. I didn't really dig into it too much. I didn't really fully comprehend what he meant by that. But he must have seen something in me. Basically, probably a struggling kid that had no direction in life. It's probably what he saw. And he invited me to a boot camp, a 3-day boot camp in Philadelphia to go learn how to fix and flip single-family homes. It was a Ron LeGrand boot camp. For those that don't know who Ron LeGrand is, he's still in the business teaching today. He's kind of like one of those old, I don't know, used car salesman type guru guys. And hopefully he doesn't listen to our podcast, but he was just a very interesting character, to say the least. And I went to that boot camp, and that was really the start of it for me. Like, I met a bunch of other people there that, they didn't seem any smarter than I was, but yet they were making tons of money by fixing and flipping homes. And so that was really my entry point into real estate. So, and before I go on, Charles, I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of maybe get your background, then we can go back and forth. That way I'm not talking for the next 25 minutes about me. So that's how I got introduced to real estate. And I'll kind of pick it up from there once Charles gives us his background prior to, getting into real estate himself.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of, in a way, I grew up around real estate pretty much my entire life. My grandfather was a sort of a small town mom and pop developer. He built probably 40 or 50 houses over the course of maybe the 20 or so years that he was active while I was growing up. And he was also he was a high school principal too of the local high school, and that was kind of what we did. My dad and my cousin and me were sort of his free labor to help him build some houses, and he kept a few as rentals, and then he had some. Then he sold the rest of them. That's kind of what he did as a side business. In addition to that, his brothers were all real estate investors. They were either real estate investors, or they had their own some type of other construction related business. So I kind of grew up around it pretty much all my life. Really all through high school, that's kind of, as far as real estate's concerned, that's kind of what I did. Is I went to school and then got out of school, played sports and all that. But most of the time I was helping him on whatever project he was involved with. In addition to real estate, he also had a pretty big farm too. So I'd help out on that. So after high school, I joined the Marines right out of high school, and spent 8 years in the Marine Corps, which really didn't give me the opportunity to actually learn anything about real estate going beyond what I knew before I joined. And then, after that, I was in the private security world and doing that. And that's when I really first started getting involved in real estate, is, seeing my grandfather and his brothers, how it had sort of, I wouldn't say it made them rich or anything, but it really gave them a great life, despite the fact that, my grandfather made $50,000 a year. That's the highest salary ever made. And, he's a multimillionaire because of real estate. So, it was kind of a no-brainer for me to try to get involved in real estate in any way that I could. So that's kind of what gave me the start. Okay. So to speak.
Then what was like the introduction? So that was the introduction, I guess, at a young age, but like while you were in the private, I guess the private security sector world, like what like prompted you again to kind of dig into it, right? I mean, because it was already the past at that point. Like you'd already had a military career in front of you. Mm-hmm. Like you'd been in the Marines for you served how many active years in the Marines prior to going to the private sector?
It was 8 years.
Okay, and then you went to the private sector. At what point in time was it actually during your active stint in the Marines, or once you were actually in the private sector that you said, "Hey, I got to check this out and see about doing it for myself"?
I had thought about it all through the time I was in the Marines. About 2 years into my Marine Corps career, I came back home and built a house. It cost me around $40,000 to build this house, and it appraised for $110,000. So that was a pretty good introduction to real estate at that point. I knew that was something I wanted to do. I just didn't have any money. So when I got in the private sector, I was getting paid about 4 or 5 times more money than I was in the Marines. So that was kind of the launching point for me, as I finally had some expendable cash to go out and buy real estate. And plus, that was 2011, so that was right after the big meltdown, and things were starting to get a little easy again. So it was just really good timing as well.
Mm-hmm. So what was like the first action you took? Like, okay, I'm interested. Like, I'm making money now, and now what? Like, did you start with education, or were you reading books? Were you spending time on websites, or did you go to seminars or boot camps? I mean,
nope.
How'd you educate yourself?
I didn't educate myself at all.
Okay.
No,
Trial by fire?
My first real estate investment, I found it on Trulia. It was a single family home in Atlanta. It was I was getting $750 a month in rent, and I bought the house for $25,000. So
wow.
I actually bought that house sight unseen because I was still overseas. So I had to actually send somebody out there to go look at it for me, and just trust that they actually did it. So it actually turned out to be a pretty good investment, but I wouldn't recommend going that route. I did very little research getting in.
So it was ready, fire, aim?
Pretty much.
Okay, well, how'd that one work out for you? I mean, was that a good experience, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it stayed occupied the whole time I had it. I had it for about 18 months. Stayed occupied with the same renter, and then when I listed on the market, that renter left. And it actually turned out to be sort of a disaster when I tried to sell it, because it got vandalized really badly. It turned into sort of an insurance windfall, I guess you could say. So that's how that one kind of turned out. And I did exit for that. I did exit that property, even though it was vandalized, for right around the price that I paid for it.
Mm-hmm. Good deal. And so did you stay focused on single family homes like that for a period of time? Is that primarily what you invested in?
Yeah, and really my lack of education got me in trouble with that. I was investing in some pretty rough areas of Atlanta. Had some rough tenants, and that's sort of what drove me out of single family. Was really some of the single family homes that I had owned during that period. They were very rough, D-class, war zone type areas, and rough tenants that. And when you're small enough in single families, all the tenants have your phone number too, so you just start getting called by these people all the time, and it was not fun.
So you were self-managing these properties. So you really did read no books whatsoever on investing or property management or anything.
Yeah, I was self-managing from a different country. So.
Oh my gosh! And all in Atlanta, in a bad part of Atlanta.
Mostly. I had some stuff in some decent areas, but most of it was in terrible areas.
Any war stories per se from your single family days of disgruntled tenant calling you in the middle of the night, or just any crazy stories that relate to investing in that lower class type property and not really knowing what you were doing?
No, I mean, I guess most of my tenants, they knew what I did, so I didn't really get too much trouble from the tenants, so to speak. But I had a lot of stuff that was vandalized. I probably lost 3 or 4 AC units just being carried off in the middle of the night. Learned pretty quickly, you just put one of those big, $1,000 cages around it so no one can steal it. A lot of that kind of stuff, just the type of stuff you would expect in a D-class neighborhood.
That's expensive in a single-family rental, though. And
when
that kind of thing happens, man, that's like your cash flow for the entire year. It's wiped out. That's no fun. Yeah,
and the other ones were my tenants again. I mostly rented to Hispanics, because that was probably the higher, just the better tenant base in the areas that I was in was mostly Hispanic families, and usually the way they cook, I mean, it tended to wear out the stoves pretty quickly, and so I was always replacing stoves and refrigerators and things like that as well. So I just got really, I don't think I really made any money in single families at all. At the end of the day, even though I had some stuff go right for me, I also had a lot of stuff go wrong.
Yeah, it's challenging. When you're really honest with yourself with single family home numbers, even when you're buying homes for 25 and 30 grand, that typically will tell you what kind of tenant base you're going to have. And so I don't know what the rule of thumb is, 1% or something like that. As long as you can get 1% rent based on the amount that you have into the home, like you should be good. Like it should be a good investment. As far as single family homes concerned, is that the rule of thumb, Charles? Is that what the single family world kind of teaches nowadays?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. 1%, and that's probably going to be more like BC class neighborhoods, not where I was at. So 1% would have killed you where I was at.
Right. Okay, well, good deal. Well, maybe I'll back up a little bit and give a little bit more of a background before we get too much further along with Charles. Yeah. So, again, I kind of gave you guys the my introduction, I guess, to real estate. Again, I wasn't really looking for it, but then when I went to this boot camp, this rated boot camp in Philadelphia, I was like, if these people can do it, I can do it. Like, that's kind of how I left that conference. I didn't know what I was going to do or how I was going to do it yet. I mean, I was so confused after leaving that conference. All I knew was that there was like 300 other people there, and 100 of them were making money. And out of that 100, I met at least like 10 of them that didn't seem any smarter than I was. And so I felt pretty confident that if they could figure it out, then I could figure it out if I just read and I basically was, taught the right methods. And so when I got back from that boot camp, I went to David, who was my mentor at the time, and I essentially, I don't know if I really formally asked him. I mean, we kind of became friends, and so I think what really just happened is like he saw that I had a really big interest in learning this business. I mean, I was just asking him questions left and right. I mean, anything that I could think of, I was spewing out to him just because I wanted to learn this business, and he knew it already. And so I essentially followed him around like a little puppy dog for like the next year. I mean, like I literally, between classes and bartending, I was either at his home office, or I was meeting him at like a realtor's office, or at one of his rental properties, or meeting with a contractor, helping him put together a purchase agreement or a rental agreement. I mean, literally anything I could help him with, I was there helping him. And so my goal was just to learn the business. I wanted to hear him talk on the phone. I wanted to see him interact with tenants. I wanted to see him take calls from tenants, which he actually did. He self-managed his properties, which I later learned that wasn't the best way to really do things. But I wanted to see exactly how a successful investor did it. And so I did that for a little over a year before I bought my first property. And my first property was a really rundown, kind of a, pretty much probably similar to Charles's first property, was a rundown D-class property. It was actually a row home in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where I grew up, in downtown Harrisburg. Really rough area, a place that I still wouldn't even buy today. And I always wonder why David actually let me buy that property. I think maybe he was just, again, make me put both feet in my fire at one time. I made money on the property, but it was a complete nightmare, just a bad, rough area, bad tenant base. And that was my introduction into real estate. And so from that point on, I just started taking more action. I bought more, single family lower end properties in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, before moving to Florida in 2002. And Florida is really where things took off for me. Like that's where I kind of got my test run in Pennsylvania for about a year, actually about a year and a half or so, before I packed up and moved down to Florida and just really put things together in a much bigger way and ramped up my business. And so basically from the time I was 20, got that first property, till the time I was, I guess probably about 23 or 24, was just single family homes. And then we started dabbling in some multifamily properties, but it was never it was almost always by accident. I mean, they just kind of came along and we'd buy some deals. We had some partners. We'd buy multifamily properties because it seemed like they made sense at the time, but we didn't really have a great underwriting formula for the multifamilies. We did for the single family. We had this big system in place to buy single family, but the multifamilies they just kind of came into our business and our portfolio, and they just seemed to kind of run themselves to a certain extent. And so that's what I did literally up until the crash of 2007, 2008 was single family and multifamily, which with almost always a focus on the single family, which later on I realized that was kind of the mistake. Like, at least that was my mistake, was focusing too much on the single family. And so not until after the crash happened did I even really get introduced into mobile home parks. I mean, mobile home parks were one of those things that everyone knows about. Like, I knew what they were, but I never, probably like you, Charles, I never even considered them. Like, it just wasn't something that was on my radar at all. But for me, I knew that I wanted to get back into multifamily. Like I took a couple year hiatus from real estate, which now I look back and was probably a mistake because I lost a lot in the downturn. I lost pretty much everything I owned in the downturn. It was a really rough time, and I knew I wanted to get back into real estate at some point. And so a couple years went by. I started a few other businesses, things that were completely separate from real estate. But then I knew that I wanted to get back in, and I kind of looked back at the business at what happened and what went right, what went wrong. And what I identified as going wrong was single family. And I mean, I don't want to dive too much into single family or poo-poo on it too much because some people make money at it. It's fine. And we made money at it. And Charles, you made money at it, but wasn't the best use of my time, wasn't the best use of your time. And it's typically not the best use of anyone's time. So if you're an astute enough investor that you can figure out how to buy quality single-family homes and make money from them, then you're definitely a smart enough investor to buy mobile home parks or apartment buildings or other types of real estate that are a better use of your time that can basically make your money multiply faster. So do you agree with that, Charles? I mean, do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have deals that we do in the mobile home park world that I think have been easier to do than some of the single families I've done. I had a short sale one time that lasted about a year and a half, single family home. It was a $37,000 short sale, and it took a year and a half, and it was probably one of the more complicated deals I've ever been involved in, just because it had two lenders with it, and it was a nightmare when I bought it, and it was also a nightmare when I sold it because the liens didn't get cleared up the right way when I bought it. So, if you're going to go through all that trouble, you might as well buy $1 million park or something even bigger than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, I mean, I look back and I realized that multifamily was the way to go. Like, and it didn't, to me at that point, it meant apartment buildings. But as I dig a little deeper, I got introduced to, again, what we're speaking about today, and that's mobile home parks. But before I dive into that part of the story, Charles, tell us about how you got introduced into mobile home parks. So you were still overseas. You were investing in really rough parts of Atlanta, some better parts, but mostly rough parts of Atlanta. Obviously, probably not overly happy about your results from an investment standpoint with your single family properties. At least when you start looking at the amount of effort that it took on your end, right? Because like you were making really good money as a contractor, as a government contractor. I mean, so like you weren't just like pinching pennies over there. You were making big bucks doing what you're doing, and so but yet your real estate wasn't really. It wasn't giving you the lifestyle that could allow you to get out of what you were doing and move into something else full time or move into being a real estate investor full time. So,
right, yeah.
Talk to me about the introduction to mobile home parks. How you found out about it?
Yeah, it really wasn't. It was a kind of a mistake, really, because I used to go back and forth to Atlanta when I came home, and I was living in it was a quadplex, and the guy that owned the quadplex lived across the hall from me and my roommate. There in Atlanta, and he owned probably 30 or 40 single family homes and a couple hundred apartment units, and he owned a multitude of different things. He owned some office, he owned 2 Taco Bells and a car wash. So he kind of introduced me, I spoke to him a couple of times, and he kind of introduced me to multifamily as something that could probably be a little bit more useful for me, considering my situation where I had money, but I probably needed to go ahead and put my stuff with a management company. So he sort of turned me on to multifamily, and really was one of the first brokers that I had started. It was one of my single family brokers that I had at the time. I got them started on looking at multifamily for me, and the first thing they brought me was a mobile home park, and it was the 21 space park on well and septic, and I think the price was $99,000, and I locked it up under contract, and this time I knew that I probably had to learn something about mobile home parks before I bought it, so it wasn't going to be like a single family adventure. But so that's kind of what got me started. Is I put that park under contract, and then went off to Frank and Dave boot camp right after that, and got an education. Wound up dropping that deal, actually. So
yeah, let's talk about that deal. Why'd you drop it? Or where was it at? And also, why'd you back out of it? Because $99,000, can you really get hurt buying a park that's 21 spaces for $99,000?
Yeah, it was also seller carry, 10% down. So it was a pretty sweet deal to have come across a broker for the first deal you even look at. But Really, it was a well and septic park, and both the well and the septic system they were having issues with those. So I think that park has actually since been shut down. So it was kind of going that way, and I'm glad I wasn't holding that bag when it happened. But it was just south of Roanoke, Virginia. It was in a kind of a rural area too. So that was another knock on it. So I know your first park deal, the one you first looked at, was a pretty sweetheart deal too.
Yeah. Oh, which one are you referring to?
That one in Florida.
Oh yeah, well it was a sweetheart deal. Like and I didn't do it, and so we interviewed someone. I forget which show it was, but Clint, and I can't even think of Clint's last name off the top of my head. But we interviewed him probably 12 episodes ago or something like that. And so yeah, that was, the crazy thing about this business is I had done plenty of real estate deals, and I felt very, very comfortable with investing in real estate and spending money and like risking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, I look back and I kick myself in the butt each and every day that I get reminded of it. Thanks, Charles, of my first deal that I had tied up and that I got cold feet on, and I backed out for. There's multiple reasons. More so it was my comfort level of going in and raising rents, literally doubling rents because the lot rents hadn't been raised in this park for quite some time. But yeah, it was basically a deal in Florida. It was about as easy as they could come because it was on LoopNet and it was owner financing. It was a 73 space park in Florida, in the I guess a central Florida, or I don't know what region you want to call that, but basically in Florida. It wasn't a big market of Florida, but it was Florida, which is typically a good thing. I mean, there's only a few parts of Florida that I wouldn't consider investing in. This was not one of them. And guy was willing to finance it for, I believe, it was like $150,000. So 25% down. I think we're paying $600,000 for the park, or maybe just a little bit less than that. And lot rents were like $120 or $140. They were pretty darn low, and had about 20 vacant park-owned homes with it. But every lot in the park, every single lot was full. City water, city sewer, all those things they tell you to look for. That were actually the city water and city sewer is actually being billed direct, which is another great thing. Didn't have to worry about putting sub-meters in or anything like that. But I got cold feet, Charles. I mean, like the numbers didn't make sense. So now I know better. But back then I was looking, the guy had no financials. His office, it was in the middle of the park. The guy lived in the park that owned it. He owned it for like 35 years. His office was like literally where the laundry room used to be of this property. And if you walked in it, he had the largest pile of papers on his desk that I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, it was literally 35 years worth of papers that he literally just started 35 years ago and never removed a piece of paper from his desk. It was at least 1.5 feet tall, and I'm not even joking. I mean, it was the biggest mountain of trash and papers. And he had like this, this massive keyboard behind the wall that he probably also, every time he changed the lock on a unit, because he had a good number of rental properties in there, he probably never threw away the old keys. Every single key for the unit had like 40 keys on it. I mean, it was
my God,
it was insane. So he probably took him like an hour every time he had to open up a door in a unit, because he had to go through and try like 30 different keys out to figure out which key was the right one. He was just a pack rat. He never got rid of anything. But anyway, so that long story short, that was a great deal that someone else ended up buying, and they basically raised rents even higher than what I was considering raising them to, and sold off all the park-owned units. And what, Charles, they turned around and sold that thing recently in the past year for $1.4 million, and I could have picked it up for $600. Seller financing. And I'm still actually wondering why Clint sold that, because he basically bought it for what I could have. He was the second guy that came behind me and picked it up, and that thing was a cash flow machine. I mean, the lot rents in that park probably were, I think they were $300 or slightly more than that when he sold it, and it had 73 units in it, and he only had paid $600,000 for it. So that's a home run in my book. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely a home run.
Yeah,
I don't know how you get any better than that, really.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was the first deal. So that was my introduction kind of into mobile home parks. I had gone through some education prior to that, kind of the same thing that Charles had done, going to boot camp. And but I knew that mobile home parks was what I wanted to focus on moving forward. Apartments, it had been getting a little tougher to find, and someone introduced me to mobile home parks, and I went to the boot camp, read as many books as I could on the topic, and knew that based on the particulars that exist in the park space, like the barriers to entry, the fact they're not building them anymore, the cap rates that exist when you compare them to the typical apartment buildings, it's just all the benefits were kind of lining up for me. It's like, well, why wouldn't we buy mobile home parks if we can get much higher returns. We're not worrying about them building any more supply. And there's also a ton of mom and pops out there that are willing to finance these things. It was a no-brainer for me. And in fact, it was almost a godsend, because at that point I was still recovering from losing everything. I mean, I literally had bad credit up until literally just a few years ago, which was there was a lot of lessons learned there, because I became very good at basically finding investments and rebuilding myself without having to rely on credit. But it was still challenging to go out and get a bank loan. I mean, that was almost impossible to do for me. And so mobile home parks offered that luxury of a lot of mom and pops are willing to finance these things, So in fact, Charles, I think probably 80% of the parks we own today have owner finance notes in place, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, aside from that one in Georgia, I mean, the first up until really, I don't know, late last year was the first bank finance property we did. Mm-hmm. At least the two of us together did. I mean, it's pretty much been all owner financing for us. Yep,
absolutely. And so I want to ask you now, Charles, because everyone's got their own take on the pros and cons of this niche. And I guess in your own words, I think we're probably on the same page, or we're kind of aligned with this because we work together on a daily basis. But I'd like to hear from you, the pros and cons of this niche. What do you like about it, and what do you dislike about it?
I guess the thing that I love about it is we just brought it up, owner financing. That's, honestly, I did have a pretty decent balance sheet when I got into the business, but I didn't really have the balance sheet to go get $1 million assets on my own. But in this business with the owner financing, I mean, the first deal you and I did together, we didn't even get looked at by that owner, really. I don't even think he pulled our credit. So, owner financing has been probably the most enjoyable thing for me anyways. As far as this business is concerned, the upside in the industry is just ridiculous. You can't find it anywhere else. The apartment industry doesn't even hold a candle to it, really. The kind of deals that you can actually find. And I just like the business. The business model just really makes sense to me. The actual business model and the customers, they, at the end of the day, the customers, they really do appreciate the service that gets provided. If you can provide that service, a nice, clean, safe, affordable community, and you can, and your employees are well trained. I mean, the customers really, really do enjoy it, and they really are thankful.
Yeah, so you're providing a service to society that is in high demand, and so I mean, if you take care of that product and you give them a nice, clean, safe, quiet place for them to raise their family, then our tenants are very, very grateful. Majority of them are very grateful for what we offer them. So that's very rewarding in itself. I will tell you. So I kind of spoke to what I like about the business, and I guess there's probably really only one thing that I mean, again, there's pros and cons of everything, and of any asset that you're going to invest in, right? I mean, if you say apartments, I could tell you what I like and what I dislike. If you say office buildings or shopping centers, right, that's what you like and dislike. Mobile home parks, I'd say the one big thing that I dislike about this business is that you don't have the opportunity to. You can't just plan to buy a unit or buy a park and outsource it to a third-party management company. Like an apartment building, yes, you can pretty much plan to do that. Like you can say, okay, I'm going to buy a 40-unit apartment building in Tampa, Florida. Well, there's at least a dozen very competent property management companies that you can literally hand the bag to, or hand the keys to, I guess is the best way to put it. Hand the keys to, and they'll probably do a much better job than you could ever do on your own managing that, and literally take that weight off your shoulders. Whereas with the mobile home park, there are a few companies here and there that specialize in mobile home park management, but it's not the norm. It's not the norm at all. And so you pretty much have to go vertical with your management infrastructure, and that can pose challenges. I mean, if that is the part where we see a lot of people fail in this business. They get in because they think it's easy, and it can be to a certain extent, but you still have to be an active manager if you're going to own your own properties. Mm-hmm. Either put the employee structure in place and have people that can help you oversee your assets, or you do it yourself. I mean, one of the two has to happen. And so, do you agree with that, Charles?
Yeah, I actually thought you were going to go with the lending. Like, so after if you can't get seller financing, I mean, it's always seems like it happens to us where we got to get a list of 20 banks and narrow it down to the two that are actually interested in looking at it. So that's probably another thing that I would say is probably bad about the industry, is that the especially the traditional financing is just it's just a lot harder to get, it seems like, than it would be for other asset classes.
Yeah, and it's based on asset size. I mean, normally the challenge really comes in when you're looking at loan amounts under $1 million.
Yeah.
Because you're only dealing with local community banks, smaller type community banks or credit unions, and every area is different. But we do definitely run the challenges with that to where on smaller loans or smaller parks that we're buying, we have those issues, and it's frustrating because on paper, the deal, and we know that the deals make a ton of sense. And I mean, like the debt coverage ratios that we show these banks should make them fall out of their chairs because it's really such a low risk investment. But sometimes it's challenging. Whereas if it was an apartment building that was in the same market, even if it was like a D-class apartment building, the banks would be like clamoring to lend money on it. So that can be definitely frustrating sometimes. So anything else, Charles, that either you love or maybe don't like so much about this business?
Nothing I can think of. I mean, like I think that there's a lot of things to like about it, and then there's probably a very, very small amount of things to not like about it. Mm-hmm. But in reality, the good far outweigh the bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Opinion. One thing we didn't cover, Charles, is like how you and I actually met. So Charles and I actually met through not this podcast because obviously it wasn't around then, but my other podcast. Actually, we didn't meet directly through that, but through one of my listeners. I guess probably shortly after I started it, we were introduced by one of the listeners of my other show, the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast, and introduced me to Charles. He was just getting into the mobile home park space then, and I just bought our first park. And we got introduced, and that literally spawned into what it is today, which is a full-blown mobile home park investment business. So it's interesting how this business can actually bring people together as well. Because even our other partner, Brian Spear, he's one of our partners in Sunrise Capital Investors. That's how we met Brian as well. We met him through my other podcast, and Brian's just a crucial part of our team, and it's the three of us. Three of us make up Sunrise Capital Investors, and it's just interesting that the great people that you meet through this business. Because I wouldn't have met Charles, I wouldn't have met Brian, and they wouldn't have met either of us if it wasn't for mobile home parks. So
absolutely, yeah.
No, been a all right. So now I'm going to ask you the question, Charles, and then you can ask it back to me. Yeah. So, and I always ask this on my other show, but if you can go back into year one of your investing career, back when you're buying, low down dog houses in Atlanta, but give yourself some advice after knowing what you know today, what would that advice be?
I think I probably would have went and talked to Vince before I got myself in trouble with single families. Maybe got an education before.
And Vince was who?
He was the guy. He's owned that quadplex that I was living in. Yeah, so I don't know. I probably would have gotten an education before I went ahead and jumped in. At least a little bit of one. Yep,
gotcha. Well, I'm going to ask myself that same question, and if I knew what I knew today, I would go back and tell myself in year one and say, buy commercial real estate. It'd probably be a very broad-based piece of advice. It'd be buy commercial real estate, but focus on housing, and that could mean obviously mobile home parks. That could mean multifamily, apartment buildings. It could even mean student housing, but housing that everyone needs a roof over their head. Our population is growing, every second, and every second that passes, and housing just it's easy to understand. To me, it's a lot easier to understand than retail, like what's going on with retail trends and what's going on with office trends, with people working from home, people working in an office setting. I mean, like that industry has been going through so many changes over the past 15, 20 years, just as retail has. I mean, think about e-commerce with you got Amazon and Amazon, did that sale actually go through? I know that they were looking at buying Whole Foods. I mean, just look
it
how
did.
That's...
Actually, I don't know if it did or not.
Yeah, I feel like, not that we're not smart investors, but I feel like you have to be a much smarter investor to be really good at like shopping centers or office buildings or even industrial properties, right? There's a lot more. It's a lot more in depth of an investment, whereas housing, people need it. Like there's no argument to that. People need quality roofs over their head. And again, with a growing population, if you buy in the right location, it's really hard to go wrong, right? So,
So here's the fun question at the end.
Yeah, here's the fun one. So I'll let you ask me first, and I'm going to ask you afterwards.
All right, sounds good. So tell us one crazy thing that not too many people know about you that would surprise everyone. What is it?
Yeah, so I think actually we talked about this before we recorded the show, and I think I surprised Charles because he didn't even know this about me. So I love old school gangster rap. Like I'm talking like, every other word's like a cuss word, like NWA, like Dr. Dre, Tupac. Like I love that stuff. And that's what I listen to. Like I anytime I work out, whether it's riding a bike or in the gym, whatever it might be, running, I listen to old school like gangster rap, and I love it. And it's interesting because I like all kinds of music, but I love that, and it drives my wife up the wall. She cannot handle it when I play it, and I play it really loud in the shower in the morning. So anyway, that's the one crazy thing about me. There's many other crazy things, but that's a good one for now. How about you, Charles?
Yeah, I've actually got, I guess I got two I could bring up. So I'm actually a pretty experienced skydiver. I don't think a lot of people know about that. I did that for a number of years. I don't think I've been since you and I started doing mobile home parks together, but I went for a lot of years before we started doing this thing. And I pretty much probably the most casually dressed person in the office every single day. So I always get some flack for that.
I think we fight for that medal though. So we're in Florida, flip flops. I mean, these guys make fun of me. I come to the office sometimes. If we're not having people visit us in the office, I'll come in with dry fit shirt on and a pair of flip flops and a pair of jeans. Hey, I mean, you gotta enjoy what we do, but you also have to be relaxed while you're doing it, is what I say. So we're relaxed when we work and we get stuff done. That's all that matters. So
and there's old man Brian with his stuff.
Yeah, with his plaid pants and plaid shirts and or his Tommy Bahama shirts. That's what he loves. And I know he's listening to this right now. So, Brian, we like your Tommy Bahama shirts and your plaid shorts. You can keep wearing them. So, anyway, Charles, anything else, man, before we say goodbye? I mean, I think we dug as deep as we possibly could in the time that we were given. We could probably spend a lot more time on each little topic about ourselves and our backgrounds, but I think that gave everyone kind of a broad overview. And this is really, we'll dedicate this show to Andrew Boychuk, who is the one that brought this up to me about a week ago and said that he didn't really know too much about our backgrounds, which is kind of crazy because I thought he did. I thought everyone knew about our backgrounds, but I guess they don't. So now you guys do. At least you know a little bit about us. And if you want to know more, you know where to reach us, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, good deal, guys. Well, then that's all we have for today's episode. But before we hang it up for the day, just want to remind you guys of that free gift that we've been offering now since we started the show. And that's for those that take the time to leave a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. We'll actually give you the exact cold call script that we use in our very own mobile home park business. And we buy a large majority of our properties from direct mail and cold calling, and this is the cold call script that we give out to all of the people that do the cold calling for us. We have full-time cold calling individuals that handle these things for us, but they use this script, and you can use it yourself. And it's proven, it's tested. We've been using it for years now. So how you will redeem this free gift from us is after you submit your review on iTunes, go ahead and send us an email to gift@mobilehomeparkacademy.com and just tell us who you are and what screen name that you use to leave that review, and we'll shoot that over to you right away. And also be sure to stop by the Mobile Home Park Academy website at mobilehomeparkacademy.com. You can listen to all these previous podcast episodes that we've done and also download a free copy of our popular ebook, which is the 21 biggest mistakes investors make when purchasing their first mobile home park and how to avoid them. And you definitely got to read this book, and you also have to text the word Kevin to 41411 to get on our VIP list for our big book. The ebook is great because it's the 21 biggest mistakes. You definitely want to know those before you buy your first park, but you got to get on that VIP list as well so you can get a copy of our big book. I'm going to call it the big book, Charles, because it's going to be probably like 10 times the size of this ebook that we have for free. But
I don't make any promises about the length of that book, but really the intention of that book. I mean, it'll
be as long as it needs to be, right?
Yeah, it'll be as long as it needs to be, but it'll show if you're trying to get into the business. It'll show you how to start building a database, how to start getting some mail out, how to underwrite, and pretty much A to Z. And if you want to learn more about our company, a lot of that stuff's going to be in there as well. So it'll be a good book.
All right, guys. Well, Charles, that's it, man. So this is your host, Kevin Bupp,
and Charles Dehart,
signing off.
Congratulations for taking the necessary steps to achieving massive success through the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Be sure to visit our website, mobilehomeparkacademy.com, to download your free digital ebook version of the 21 biggest mistakes investors make when buying their first mobile home park and how you can avoid them. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to our free monthly mobile home park investing newsletter, which is jammed full of valuable tips, tricks, and strategies to help you accelerate your path to success as a mobile home park investor. More information about this podcast and its hosts can be found by visiting mobilehomeparkacademy.com.